Hey everyone, it's the Nitro RC Nerds here, and my beloved Losi 810 has what I believe is an air leak somewhere within its engine or fueling system. I do believe it's actually the fueling system. So let's go ahead and go through the different symptoms that I'm seeing. Also, this video is not necessarily intended to teach you how to look for and or fix air leaks. This is simply just a guy who his beloved 810 is not operating like it should. So this is pretty much real-time troubleshooting as you watch me go through. However, I will point out the symptoms that I'm seeing and also what I believe are the correct steps to mitigate these symptoms. So enjoy. Now, one of the very first symptoms I noticed, it was having a little bit of trouble priming. I put new fuel tubing on it, and after I did, priming went back per usual. However, I don't think it was the tubing that solved the issue, and I'll explain here in a minute what I think it was. But let's look at the very first symptom, the first thing that I noticed when I figured that something was wrong. And that would be a weird sounding engine. So in other words, you know how your engine should typically be like a zipper, like zip, zip when it's moving, or just when it's idling, just kind of a low idle. This sounds more like a vacuum cleaner. It kind of goes, but the clutch belt's not engaged, so it's, and the idle stop is fine. So it's not like the carb opening is open. It just sounds like it has a leak. Let's take a listen. Listen for the high idle in a second. It gets worse the warmer the engine gets. I just started it. The next symptom that I noticed is stopping it. Now, I always stop my vehicles by pressing the finger over the stinger, and 100% of the time, boom, they shut off just like that. However, you'll notice that pressing my finger here on the stinger of the exhaust doesn't fully shut it off. I have to press it really, really hard and hold it there for a few seconds to shut it off. Here, I'll show you what I mean. So let's go ahead and get it started up. It's gotten a little bit better because I did a few things, but at first what was happening is when I press it in there, it would go, it would go from a high rev like to, and it wouldn't fully shut off. In other words, it acted like it wasn't sealed. And yet another symptom of it was the temperature. This engine typically, when it's fully run in and it's hot, runs at about maybe 220, 230 max. But what I was noticing was, even as soon as I'd start it up and it would idle, I started taking its temperature because I knew something was wrong, and it was already getting up to like 200. And then I would drive it and it'd be at 250, 260, and I would stop it at that point. So the first thing I did is I thought it had something to do with the coupling on the pipe. I had a new pipe, so I just went ahead and put a new pipe on it. And I noticed in the back that the coupling, and they don't use the ones that we're used to, like these right here, hopefully you guys can see that. Instead what they use are these. And the coupling in the back was okay. It had a little bit of a piece was missing that was maybe 2 millimeter wide, but when I put it on, it's still on there tight. That could be the problem, but I don't think it's a problem. But anyways, I've got some new ones just in case. And the reason I don't think it's a problem is because of this final symptom. And that would be fuel coming out of the tank. And I kind of don't want to do this because it's going to make a bit of a mess, but when I picked it up, of course it's not going to happen now, is it? Let's see. There you can go. You can kind of see it coming out of the tank. It was coming out much worse, but fuel coming out of the cap seal here is never a good thing. So I checked out the seal, and you could see, hopefully you can see, there is a little bit of corrosion around it, probably at around the 7 o'clock area. I tried to tighten it a little bit. It helped some, but I'm pretty sure that the problem is in this fuel cap seal right here. So what I did is I just ordered a new tank for it, because I don't believe you can just get the seal or the cap. And I was happy because it came with new fuel line, it came with the clunk, all ready to go. So at this point, let's just go ahead and pop it in and see if that takes care of the issue. All right, so we've got the new fuel tank on. A few other items of note here. I am fully aware that there is a bit of a trick, if you will, that you can do if you suspect it's in your fuel tank. If you have a leak, what you can do is submerge it in water and blow into the pressure line, and if you see bubbles and all that stuff. But the way I see it is, I'm seeing fuel pour out of the cap seal, so there's obviously a problem. So if anything, even though this might not fix it, that's still a problem. The other thing is I have gone through and kind of have done the tertiary check, if you will, on other areas. So I made sure that the carb was sealed here, and the pinch bolt on it was fine. I checked the head bolts on here and all that other kind of stuff. The other part of it is, when you saw it running earlier, I had to rich in it. So just to really get it to run, I have to rich in the low end. I would say probably a good hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours. And so even then, what I noticed is that the needle is not flush with the, it's not flush, I guess. And that kind of concerned me a little bit, so I started thinking, man, you know I know I reset it to stock and I did all that other stuff, and maybe there's something wrong with the needle. But luckily, and I was looking for a picture just to see, because it's 2 3/4 turns out, and that's a good maybe millimeter, 2 millimeters away from flush. But luckily I had another carburetor, and this thing was, I thought, tuned perfectly, and I was able to see that, yeah, indeed it is. You can see it's quite a bit away from flush, which is a little bit odd, because most of the times the low-speed needles are flush, or at least close to flush. So at this point, let's just go ahead and start it up, and then hopefully that fixes it, and then if that does, we'll tune it. Alright. Pretty sure that took care of it. Now I'm going to, well, this thing is really rich. You can tell just now I was getting sprayed with fuel. So at this point now, let's tune it and show you how she does.
So you mean